welcome to another episode of This Works For Us podcast. And today we have some special guests on, and that's Antwan and Page Holton, correct? I did say it right.
Yes,
that is correct.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Welcome. And how you guys doing?
we're doing wonderful.
Good. Glad to be here with y'all.
Man,
with the
we
Jack.
appreciate, the Jacksons. We here. We appreciate you guys joining, man, and we just look forward to having a good time with y'all.
Absolutely.
For sure.
So,
Nothing less.
before we get into it, I always like to start off with like a little icebreaker question here.
Okay.
Get y'all juices.
You know what I'm saying? Get a little something going here.
Okay.
Question is, if your relationship had a reality TV show, what would be the title and possible tagline?
Reality TV show.
A reality show. I would say something like, hey, we still at it. We still at it, because I think with us, it's like, different phases of our life, we've been through different things and we've stuck at it and we've been with it. We stuck to it together and we made it through. So it's kind of like, or it could be like, here we go again, or, on to the next adventure. I would say something like that because it's all been an adventure throughout our marriage, and, when you're going through certain things, you feel like it's the biggest thing you've ever faced.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the help of God and each other, you make it over it. And then you go, whew, okay, made it through that. But then there's something else,
But then there's more.
Yeah.
And there's another thing.
But wait, there's more.
Hashtag, and then there's more.
And then there's more.
There's more. Yeah. So I totally agree with that. Right. It's the persistency, right? It's the consistency. We're saying we're in this thing. Why? Because we made a cut. First of all, we love each other. That's number one. But also because we made a covenant with God. So that you can't break that, right? Like, so no matter what comes up, we have to push through it. And I think it's a choice. It's a decision. We decide every day or every situation that we got to come through the other side. Because of the covenant with God. So
absolutely.
Couldn't say any better.
And then there's more.
Yep.
I love that. Well, now tell us a little bit about yourselves and how'd you guys meet?
Our love story.
All right. So we agreed to a certain point in the story. So I'll tell my part first, and then she can tell her.
Jump in.
Alternate first.
No, it's no alternate. It's the truth.
It seems like that in every relationship, right? Like you have your side and I have mine.
Yeah. Exactly. So it was early 2000s. We were in college. We met in an African studies class. It was a class that I didn't even plan on taking, but one of my best friends was like, "Hey, this is an easy A, I heard. So why don't you come take this one?" So I took the class, and we were in the class probably a few months, like mid-semester. And then one day I just look over and like I see this beautiful girl just laughing with her friends. I caught her like mid-laugh, and she just had this beautiful smile. And so I'm like, wow, she's cute, and I had never noticed her before. So I think on that same day, I was going, I wanted to say something to her, but I was like, nah, I ain't gonna do anything like that. So I was going to my next class, and ended up we were in the same area, and we went to school at a big campus. We were at Michigan State University. So she was at the next area where I was, and the odds of that were kind of slim. So I was like, wow, she's pretty. And I noticed that we kind of had on the same color. So she had on a baby blue shirt, had a baby blue jogger outfit with some Jordans on and stuff. At that time I wasn't really used to approaching women. I was more so just sit back in the cut and they come to me and, not to be like braggadocious or anything, but, I just didn't have that confidence at that time. So I saw her, I was like, wow, I got to say something. This must be something. So my opening line was, wow, that's a pretty blue you got. I guess we matching or something of that sort. This is where it kind of go ahead.
Yeah, this is the funny part. So I am actually, like you said, we're standing outside and I got my group of girls with me. And then I look over and I notice him. And I knew he was from the class and everything, but he's digging in his book bag. And I swear this man must have been digging in that book bag forever. He looking up and I knew that he was building up courage. And I'm like, oh Lord. But then I'm kind of nervous because I'm like, I'm with my friends, like, just go. I'm like, no, I don't want to be bothered. I'm with my girls, you know. But I can see him. He looking up and he digging in that book. I'm like, oh, he about to come over here. He just waiting for his opportunity. He's building up his confidence. He getting ready to come. And so I gave him my number. Now this is where the story gets tricky
Got the
because he's like, you just threw your number at me. But I was just saying, I thought he was going to be a good friend. I said, you know what? This guy is a good quality man. Like, you know how when you see people and he just seemed like he was so sweet. I could see it just from looking at him. I'm like, he can't harm a fly. So I put him in my friend zone.
Put him out there like that.
Oh,
Don't do
man.
Yeah, no, he was a friend, right?
She put me in the friend zone,
But what happened?
I knew it wasn't gonna be that.
Yeah.
You know? Early on in our conversation, when we started talking on the phone, you know, that's when she put me in the friend zone.
Mm-hmm.
But early on in the conversations, I knew I wanted more, and I was
Yeah.
like, I was like, I got something to tell you, but I can't tell you.
Yeah.
And you
Like,
know, she's like,
that's weird.
what? And you know, I told her, I was like, you're gonna be my wife.
Like, huh? Say what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I told her early on, you're gonna be my wife.
It is like you knew it right away.
Yeah.
But this is the cool thing I was gonna say about the Stefan Urkel.
Okay.
So because he was kind of a little nerdy, and Antwan, I love him so much, but he was a little nerdy when I saw him on the first time. So that's why I really, like I said, he's a nice guy, harmless, like he can't, you know. But the first date when he came to pick me up, he turned into Stefan. And I was like, oh, like the glasses came. I don't know who this guy was that came to pick me up. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Mama's car.
Yeah, his mama's ride. He was whipping it. And I said, look at God. You know what I mean? So I was so glad that I just, I was open and I saw his heart. That was number one. So I saw he was a good guy. But it made it even better when he turned on into that other person. So
Yeah.
like, oh, look at him. So
Yeah. And then from that point on, you know, just grew and stuff. And we had other coincidences when we first started dating.
Mhm.
So like on our first time going to church together.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't say what we were gonna wear or whatever. We ended up wearing the same color.
Yes.
You know,
Same
and
color.
it's like a lime green.
Yeah, it's
So
really
it's not
odd.
like a common color, not like we just
Yeah.
navy blue.
It's eye color.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I
So
agree.
she had her outfit and
We were surprised. We're like, what?
yeah, so
Happening right
yeah,
now.
sometimes we get stopped on campus, like a professor or an older person one time stopped, was like, hey, y'all, beautiful looking couple.
Yeah.
And that was like when we first started dating,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Mhm.
I wonder if that's like I don't know, like some kind of signature God move or something. Because literally the same thing. Like we would be
Really?
at the beach. We was at the beach on our first
like
date,
kind of like a first date.
and people were just stopping
Random.
and just like, oh my
Mhm.
God, you guys are such a lovely couple. And we're like, okay.
It was so weird.
Yeah,
So weird.
So I'm just like,
That's why we looked at each other when you
Yeah.
said that. I'm like, what?
It's like the glow or something, like it's like
Yeah.
highlighted
So,
what's
oh,
happening.
yes.
Well, that's
Yes,
awesome. So y'all obviously finished out college together.
No.
No?
we didn't.
Mm-mm.
So at that time, her dad had gotten sick.
Mhm.
So she went back home and transferred to the University of Michigan for
Mhm.
some strange unknown
We're rivalry schools.
rival school. So in our house around football and basketball time, it gets kind of fun. So
Yeah, it does.
yeah.
It does.
So she finished up at University of Michigan, and I
Mhm.
finished up at Michigan State. And you know, we stayed together through those years. And you know, through those years, they were a little hard sometimes because I was growing into being an independent young man. And at that time, I grew up with in a single mother home. So my father died when I was young and grew up with my mom. So I had to learn how to change my position as a son and then become a fiance, then husband, and then father. So in that relationship, you know, that made it a little difficult at times because my mom wasn't as accepting at that time. She was used to having me to herself, and instead of, you know, in my mind, I always imagined when I got married, my mother would love my wife, and it'd be the three of us, and she had the daughter that she never had. But my mom was like, I don't want no daughter.
Mm-hmm.
We good.
Oops.
But you know, eventually, you know, I learned she helped me, my wife helped me grow in that because it was hard for me at first because I didn't know how to balance the two. You know, sometimes, you know, I would go to one side and the other side's upset, and then go to the other side and then this side's upset. But then I had to realize, hey, this is the woman that I'm coming home to every night. This is the woman that I'm sleeping with and building my life with. So I had to learn how to reorganize and recategorize, learn how to say a word that's a full sentence, a paragraph, and a statement, and that is no.
Yeah.
Let's leave it at that. No explanation needed. And you know, it took a while, you know, throughout our marriage. But you know, now I can say that, you know, we've grown from it. I've grown from it, I'll say, and I know she has too.
Mhm.
About to speak for myself, you know, I've grown from it, become better at it, and then also speaking to other men, realizing at the time I felt like I was the only person going through it. But then learned through other friends and things like that, they were going through similar situations or had gone through it. So it was just a blessing. And then also helped other young men to say, hey, if you're going through this is what you need to do. And it is just amazing how many people have gone through parent situations.
Mhm.
You know, it's so real. It's so real. It comes up a lot. You know, we had interviewed another couple, and you know, one grew up with both parents, and very much they described it as the like Huxtable lifestyle, and then the other only had his mom, well, his mom and his stepdad. And so their view of what a marriage should look like was very, very different. But the conversation of the parent always comes up a lot. And we remember, like, the first thing in premarital counsel was like, you have to keep your family out your business, right? Like, what happens in your household is sacred to you two, right? And not sharing too much detail. So let's pause on that a little bit and just like tell us how you work through that. You know, especially just growing up with your mom, you know, like that in itself, a mom and a son, and, you know, and a son and a mom, you know, and the dad and his girls are different types of relationships. And we often project what we have with our parents onto our spouses. So, you know, just walk us through that a little bit, how you helped, you know, how y'all walk through that, because it is a touchy subject. Right, that's my mom, right? So like, watch where you step in, kind of thing. So just talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that I had to find was what was true. And I had to realize that she's not going to tell me anything that's going to harm me. She's only going to tell me something to make me better, to make me stronger, to help me avoid any pitfalls that she may see. And I had to learn to trust her as my wife, and then also as a woman, you know, with her intuitions that, you know, only God gives our women, that they can't explain it. They can't, you know, we're fact-based as men. Well, what you see, you know, what were the clues? What was it? And she, I just got a feeling, you know, like, so, but I had to learn to trust her feelings in situations, and her knowledge of whatever was going on. So that, from my standpoint, is what helped me.
I think from my standpoint, at first, I mean, like, let's be real, it was challenging because I am the person that I'm used to people doting on me, and everyone wished their son was with me, right? So I'm like, this is new. Like, what the hell? Like, you don't like me?
Right.
You know, like, I would think you would be happy. So I was surprised, and just really trying to figure out. I remember apologizing several times. I mean, I'm trying to make this work, right? I'm like, what did I do? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm apologizing. I don't even know what I did, right? But just if anything I can do to make it better, that's what I was trying to do. That was the young self, you know, just did not know. I'm early 20s, so I'm fresh, don't know nothing, you know. But just trying to figure it out because I knew I loved him. And I think that's really been the key to my whole thing. Whatever I move through, I'm moving with knowing that I love him And I'm asking God, I'm really like depending on him too. I'm also trying to figure out any women, right? Like I'm talking to the women, but sometimes that can be iffy because they're like, girl, I wouldn't take that. Like, girl, right? Like you don't have to, what? You like you don't know. So it was hard. But then I'm like, but I love him. You're 20, right? You're like, I love him. He's so nice. Like, this is a really nice guy. I think I can make this work. You know what I mean? So I'm so hopeful, and just really trying to figure it out. So I think I spun around a lot. My wheels was spinning and I was just spinning. But one thing that was consistent, I knew we loved each other. And I'm like, and I know this man loves me. And so I defended him and I persevered through all of that, because I said he's a good guy. And if it wasn't for her, everything would be fine. That's what I was thinking. But I realized as time goes on, you realize that's fantasy, right? Like, because in marriage, there is family. Yes, we can try to separate as much as possible. And we try to put each other in our rightful place.
Right.
But what about the holidays? Just what about the day to day? So yeah, it does matter. Extended family, they do play a role. And so, yeah, but I think like I said, how I got through it was just really the love that I have for him, trying to listen and filter out information, and really the Lord.
Can't go wrong with that. But it's funny that y'all, obviously bring up the parents. We had a, different experience with that. It was just like they met for the first time and everybody was cool. No drama and anything like that. And I think, with that being said, is like she stated earlier, when you pretty much keep what used to be your close family, they now become distant because you guys are now the close family. And once those boundaries have been set, hopefully, and I believe now it has been set for you guys, but they won't have to, ever get in, interfere with what you got going on. We don't have any outside interference with that. Obviously, you guys don't either, because that was probably a very testing time for you both with that. Now,
absolutely.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, it's testing, but it helped us. And then I'll say another thing kind of to add to the story that helped us is about a year after we got married, Paige got an opportunity. We living in Michigan at that time. So Paige got an opportunity and was recruited by a company to move down here to San Antonio.
Yes.
That's what got us down here.
Yes.
So I think the move away from everyone and being so far away helped us to grow together, to depend on each other, and to start our lives together. Because I grew up in a city that's about an hour away from her city. And so, like the holidays, like she was talking about the holidays and the day-to-day and things like that, where if you're in the city, you can get pulled, or you feel the obligation. But, I think God moved us to help us grow and to incubate down here in San Antonio. So this is our city together. No, unfortunately, we can't make the holidays. We're just going to have to learn how to do the holidays together. And the funny thing, too, kind of a side note, is when we first got married, Paige didn't cook that much. And by us being away, she would call her mom and ask for recipes, and she learned how to cook, and she's an amazing cook now, so, we grew together in our marriage. So.
Was you truthful in the beginning of that?
Was it what?
I said, were you truthful in the beginning with that? When you said she couldn't cook, and then when she would present something to you, was you like, this is the best thing I've ever tasted?
I was gonna say we've been together. She's been cooking for me since college. She used to make some rice-a-roni in college, man. She made some fried, what was it?
Pork chops. I could do
Fried
my
pork chops. Oh, that was her specialty.
I could do
fried
pork
pork
chops. Don't
chops
play. I
on
could
that
do
day.
my pork chops.
So I didn't say she didn't cook well. I said she didn't really cook much. And,
I got you.
her repertoire was her
it was
thing.
just
It was basic.
Just basic.
But I mean, she's expanded and she's tried new recipes and stuff. So, and she's always like, "Hey, let me know how it is. And, let me know. Be honest. Don't try to spare my feelings. I want to make it good."
Right.
So,
And that's the thing too about me, and that's what I love about him, is that I can be honest. So with our relationship, we don't have to front. So like, it's like I can cook, but I didn't want to do it often. I was more like a career, just all into nursing and doing, doing my thing or whatever. So then now you have to play a new role. This is a wife role. So it's like, oh, okay, now I have to play this role, right? But yeah, with cooking, it's like, and I'll tell them, like, does this taste right? Like, I don't know about this. Like, I think I'm more critical, you know what I mean? And because I hate that. I hate when people think they can cook and they really can't. And it's like, girl, you can't. Like, and it's okay. Like, it's
Right,
okay.
it's not
But
your
please
strength.
be
That's
aware of what you
right.
can and cannot do. So yeah, so I stick to what I know, you know what I mean? And then I'll try things. But when I do try it, it's like, what do you like? Because I'm cooking for both of us, you know what I mean? So is it something I should have taken out? Is it too heavy with this? Or so I'm open to feedback. It doesn't hurt my feelings at all. Like I want to do this thing right. You know what I mean? And if it sucks, it sucks, and we throw it out and it's okay. It's like that was a fail.
Yeah. And that's what I was kind of alluding to, far as having that open, honest communication between you two. Because sometimes when you're learning each other, you kind of spare the other person's feelings. But if you can do that up front, you're golden. If you can do that in the very beginning, there shouldn't be nothing later on that you couldn't technically discuss. So that's just the beautiful
It should be
side of that.
your best friend, right? Like you
There
should
you
be
go.
able to say, you tell your best friend everything. If you like, girl, that outfit that ain't working for you, right? You should be able to do the same thing with your spouse.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I was going to say, I think it goes back to what he was saying, knowing that he has my best interest. Like, we're not trying to dog each other. He's
Right.
not going to laugh and make fun. I mean, we can laugh at each other. You know what I mean? Like, laugh at ourselves, but he's not trying to hurt me. And so I think that matters too. Like, when you trust that person, you can just be honest and it's okay. We can laugh, and have fun with it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So how long have y'all been married?
So we've been married 15 years.
15.
15 years,
Mhm.
yes.
God.
And
But we
so
dated for 7.
Yeah,
Yeah, we dated for 7. So
Yeah.
that was the time when I was telling you about the mother-in-law. So I think that really slowed down, and we were really contemplating during that time, that 7-year span. But yeah, we dated for 7 years. So we've been together
so we've
for
been together
a
over
lot.
20
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, really.
Like, you stop doing the math now. We just say
Yeah,
over
so-
20 years now.
yeah, it's like when you have children after the 12-month mark, like I'm not about to be counting this. She's 15 months. I got time for that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay, so y'all dated for 7 years,
Mhm.
and then got married. Well, I was gonna say, our pastor always says time is your ally. Like you said, at that point in time, you were like, it slowed down. You try to like, let's work this thing out. And I think so many times in marriage, people just jump, feet first, right? And they don't take that time, like, to get through the muddy waters. And I think it's just highlighted when you get married and you didn't take that time to go through the muddy waters. And now you're married and now you have to go through it. So it's a little bit easier, like when you're in your singleness and you have time to, like, process your thoughts and deal with your feelings and then come back together and make it work. So that's a blessing in itself that y'all took that time and space that you needed. So any children?
What?
Yeah, one.
Boy or girl?
1
Boy.
5.
A 5.
Five.
And he's
So we
5.
waited. We waited.
Yes.
But you know what? It wasn't by our choice though either. I think, so growing up, my mother always was, taught us that number one, you take your time with having children. And don't have children right away. First, you got to get your education, do all that. And then when you get married, she encouraged me, even when I got married, not to just jump into having children. Enjoy your husband, get to know your husband, like lay down the foundation. So I'm thinking, really, I had a lot of times. I think we was like 25, 26 or something. I was 27.
27 and
27.
26.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 26, right? So I thought I had time, and then time went by so fast. We was having fun. Like we was
traveling, and our friends had kids at that time, so I was like, oh, we wish we could come. Well,
We're living it up.
Having fun.
And then one day we paused and we're like, hey, we want to have a child. And then we never thought that we would have struggle having a child. We just took it for granted. You just thought that whenever I want to have a child, I can. But life taught us not so, not for us. So we had a challenging time to have a child. And so I found out actually me wanting to have a child, it really saved my life. Because when I was trying to get pregnant and everything, I went to the doctor and I said, okay, I'm just going to go and get checked out, make sure everything is fine. And I found out I had fibroids. And with the fibroids, they told me due to the size and the location, I would have to have surgery to get it removed. And then when I went and got it removed, that's when I found out that I had uterine cancer. So, that's like the short version of this story, but literally me wanting to have a child actually caught it. I was able to catch it at an early stage. And then we had Izzy. So we had like three, we did IVF, three, we had two failed attempts. And then the third one is when we had Israel. So yeah, that's our son.
Amen.
So, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just gonna say too, you go through things and you ask God, why am I going through this? And you have to see the blessing in it, or you'll see the blessing from the situation. So in her having cancer, that qualified us to get it her to be in the Lance Armstrong Foundation, which paid for all of our IVF
That's
and
very
all of our
expensive.
storage and everything. So, you say, God, why is this happening? But, when she was going through the cancer, it was like terrible because we didn't know if she was going to live or die.
Right.
We didn't know what was going to happen if she had to go through chemo, but to God be the glory. She found a great doctor and a great team who said, we're going to be thinking outside the box. We're going to give you these high doses of hormones. We're going to try to avoid the chemo side. And through that, God healed her. And then, like I said, the Lance Armstrong paid for all of our IVF, so we didn't have to come out of pocket for anything. And, you see God's blessings, so, when storms come, you just have to weather it. And then you'll be able to see the sunshine and the rainbow.
Yeah.
Boy, you said a mouthful there. My Lord, God is so good. Man, he's so good. Oh, to go through that. So how was that, for you guys to find that out? I know you kind of touched on just a little bit, but let's go in that a little deeper. When you're finding out that, that she has cancer, for you, how was that as a man that, your wife is, again, you don't know if she's going to live or die. What was your mindset at the time?
It was like just a state of confusion in a way, because we just didn't know what variables were going to happen. I remember the day she called me. She called and said, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "I'm all right. How you doing?" And I knew something was just wrong in her voice. She's like, "Can you come home when you get a chance? Or are you able to come home?" I was like, "Okay, I'm on my way." And on my way, I just felt like it was something that wasn't good. So she's such a sweet person. She told me later that she was more concerned about how I would feel or how hurt I would be learning that she was diagnosed with cancer than being concerned for her own self and her own health. So for me, it was just a state of devastation because, kind of earlier on in our marriage, she faced a sickness that we had to go through as well. And, it was kind of bringing back those vibes, like, what's going to happen? Is her health going to deteriorate? Are we going to be able to continue living our lives together? Or will I be a widower? It was just like really real. And, the type of cancer she had was unheard of generally for a woman of her age.
Right.
It's usually an older woman's disease. So it's like, okay, so many questions. God, why is this happening? Why did she get this type of cancer? What's going on? So being a husband, we're fixers and we want to fix the situation. And there was nothing I could do in my power except for pray and believe God and, just ask her what I could do to support her and, how I can best support her and, pray to God that we get through this and that we had a victory in the situation. So it just really felt like a lonely, desolate place as a husband when you're trying to do everything you can to help your wife, and there's a chance that she might be taken away from you.
And how was you, Paige, when you know, obviously you got that news. He said that you know, cared more about how he felt than you did yourself. But what would the motivation? I guess there's always a motivating fact. You want to live. For one, that's one big motivation. But to go through that, I mean that's
So
probably
this story can get really deep. So I'm trying, I mean, this could be like part 2, part 3, like y'all don't even know the half. So I'm really going to try to just kind of sum it up. But oh my God, this story is so deep. So, but you're asking about, you know, how did I feel? So I just remember, you know, thinking like the doctor called me and she told me to come into the office. I remember her telling me, you know, hey, you know, unfortunately, sweetie, like you have cancer. And I almost, I'm just like, what did you say? Because I could not. I remember looking, she's looking straight at me like I'm looking, and she's like, you have cancer. And I'm like, huh? I couldn't hear her. And I remember she said it again. And I said, what? You know, and it was me and this doctor is going back and forth. She's saying cancer. And I said, what? She said, and the more she said it, the more it pierced me. It started to, I said, oh, I could feel it. Like, it's setting in. She's talking to you, Paige. I think I want to just get out of my body or something like, because that C word, I don't play with C. I don't play with the cancer word, right? So I'm like, me, you know, and so literally she had, and the more she said it, the more I could feel it seeping in and I'm receiving what she's saying. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. And she's telling me, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to have a baby. I'm so sorry. And she said, and I even, you know, took the biopsy and I had them do it again. I said, please check it 2 times. I know y'all good, but just double check. And she said, unfortunately, it came back sweet. I'm just like, oh, so when it hit me, you know, because I was like I said, it took about 5, 7 times. We're going back and forth. And then I said, okay. So it was like, okay, now it's seeping in. And now I have to deal with this. And I'm just trying to figure it out. Like, Lord, what is this? Because I feel like me and God is best friends. That's how I feel. Like how I feel about Antwan. I feel like, oh, he's really, he has my back. So how did you, God, let something like this happen to me? I want answers. I need answers because I'm devastated at this point. And what are you doing up there? Like, I know you control everything. You control it all. And I am your daughter. I feel like I've been good. So now I'm going through my thoughts and I'm thinking I've been a good woman, you know, like I've been pure. And I know some chicks out here, you know, not to put judgment, but I'm like, because I felt like uterine cancer was so personal. This thing has entered into a sacred place, right? It's so precious. And I'm thinking, and you let something like that get inside of me? What is this? What did I do? And I'm a good woman. Like I live for you my whole life. I've been holy and I've been trying to do all the right things. And then here I am, me, Paige, like why? You know? So I'm like, me and God, we have to have a whole conversation. And that's why I love God. Like he's so good. He knows me. He knows me. And so he lets me pout and he lets me do all the things. And then he gets me together at the end. That's a beautiful story. But going back, like I said, so I'm talking to God and I'm thinking about all these things. And then I start thinking about I got to tell him. Like, how do you tell somebody you got? Because I know he loves me and I know he's going to be scared. And I'm just like, man, this is rough. But I got to tell it to him because I don't even know what stage I'm in. I don't even know what this is going to look like, the cancer journey. So I need to let him know. And plus I needed support, right? So I'm just like, man, I didn't want to tell him because I'm just so scared to tell him on how he's going to handle it. As usually, you know, when you hear something like that, it's like so devastating. And like you said, you just don't know the outcome. So yeah, so I told him and stuff, and I just kind of like gently, I try to be as gentle as possible, like, you know.
And she told me it's kind of like, you know, dropping that chicken wing in the hot grease, you know, drop it in and sit back. But she told me this, like, you know, I was like, wow. And then I just started crying when she told me that. And she consoled me and I consoled her and she started crying. And then, you know, we just kind of had our little time to weep and then kind of picked ourselves up. Okay, what's next? Yeah.
Now we got to go to God. It's a trust God now moment.
I was gonna say, I think that's what you have to do. I think God will allow you to, okay, y'all go ahead and get it out. Go ahead and cry, get it over. Are y'all done? Now y'all ready to let me do what I do?
Right.
Yes.
Come on.
Exactly.
And that's what he did for y'all, because obviously you healed. Y'all here, got your son. So how was that, born? Here it is. That doctor said you couldn't have a baby. I'm sorry, you're not gonna have a baby, but you got living proof running around for 5 years now and going. So how's that been for you, raising this child after going through something like that?
Yeah, wonderful,
Yes, ma'am.
wonderful. He has just been truly a blessing. And I remember even like delivering him, and I was like, wow, I am here.
Yeah.
This is the day. You know what I mean? I am here full circle from, being so scared about cancer, and how is this going to work? Failed IVF attempts, and now today is birthday, right? Like, we're going to celebrate Israel. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
And it took time, but God is so faithful that, you can see the victory at the end. And this is what he had in mind for me, So that's why I say I love me some Jesus. I love him because he's so sweet. He's so good. He's so kind. And he knows you, and you can totally be yourself. And he still, let you do whatever you're going to do and get it out. But he is going to be there, and he's so faithful.
I think that's a wonderful testimony in itself that, people, our pastor was just talking today, like how people don't really talk to God, right? Like, they not real, they don't have real conversations. And you were like, listen, it's me and you. It's me and you. We need to have a conversation because I don't understand. And I think just, for the new Christian or, even some of the people who've been in it for a moment, it's like, if you're really going to have this relationship with God, then you really need to get intimate with him, right? And I think one of the most important things you said was like, wait a minute, like, I'm your favorite. What do you mean? Like, we have a relationship. You are my daddy.
Yeah.
So come on. You said you're gonna protect me, so I don't understand.
Yeah.
And I think as you like unfold or you pull back the layers, in your relationship with God, like that is so important to have that relationship so that you could be raw, right? And then he could then say, okay, let me check you, get out your emotions and your feels, and let's do this thing together. But I mean, it's like the foundation of faith itself is to be able to have that, that relationship and get down in the nitty-gritty. And yeah.
Yes, because I think we all say that we love God and we trust him, but you really don't know until you have to.
Mhm.
Right? So it's like, okay, you love me, show me.
Yeah.
So that's scary.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's
It's
so funny
almost,
because one thing I know about the Lord is like we feel like we can't take it. I feel like I'm about to break. I feel like I'm about to die. This is too much. This is too heavy. I can't carry this, God, And he's like, you all right. You can do a little bit more. More. But he made you, he manufactured you. So he knows how much you can take. You don't even know how much you can take until he put the weight on you. And then you're like, wow, because he's going to help you to carry it. But I think also he shows you a different side of him. Like sometimes he's not going to take it away, but he's saying, let me get in there with you. I'll show you how to do it. You know what I mean? I'll carry your weight for you. And it's amazing to be able to see him in that way. Like you talk about intimacy with God. That's everything. That's it. Because we can talk about it, but to actually experience it, that's how you know God is real, right? He has to come to you. Like it has to be an encounter with you and God. And that's how you know. It's not reading the book, but it's actually like where you at. And to know he'll show up and say, here I am.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes.
But I think too, with in those certain type of situations, that's a situation you can't control per se. That's nothing that you could do about it, that you wanted to, like you said, we're fixers. We're men, we want to fix it. Even for yourself, you want to fix it. But it's a situation where you're like, I have to give everything to God right now because he's the only way this is going to work. And to know that, and sometimes I feel like it's not that God doesn't put these things on you per se, right?
Yeah.
Because as parents, you don't want your child sick or anything like that. So you got to look at it from that standpoint too. We're children of God. He doesn't want us sick, broken, all that stuff too. So just like you don't want that for your natural children, he definitely don't want that for us. So you get in these situations where you really have to be like, okay, God, I don't know what to do. I have to surrender and give this to you in order for me to get through this. And to go through that and to let him work, just like I was saying earlier, you're crying, you this and that, and he's like, are you done?
Right.
Are you done?
Pick yourself.
Come on, let's go.
Mhm.
Pick yourself up, dust it off, try again, let's go. And to see that, man, and to know from your story, even similar situations that we've kind of gone through like that recently, truthfully. So and for him to come through and work that thing out, as just shows how great God is and how glorious he is in all that he does. And you said something very important. He's the manufacturer. He created us. So he knows what he's put in us, what we're capable of, and what our purpose is. And that is such an amazing thing to know. And once you know that and operate in that, it's going to work wonders for you. So that's just amazing what you guys have been able to overcome with that.
It's also a testament to y'all love for each other, right? That's a lot coming at y'all at one time. And just, individually having to process that and like deal with your feelings, right? But then also be a support system to your spouse. That a lot for what you said, 20 something, late 20s, to process, right? And let's be honest, we're still growing at 20 something, so we still learning how to do this thing, right? So we're still learning for ourselves, but now we have to be there and support one another. And so that's a whole trial in itself for y'all to come out on the other end of that with each other, because there's a lot of people who would have per se weathered the storm, but then after the fact, like, I don't I don't know if I can keep keep this going, so that's a blessing in itself to see that y'all got over the hump and still strong within your marriage as well.
Yeah, I kind of like with Moses part of the Red Sea, Israel attacked the 12 stones in the middle of the Red Sea, so it'll be a testament for the generations to come. It's kind of like God's blessed us with different things that we've overcome, and it's like we stacked them and we stacked them. And then when we face a new trial, we look back at the things that we stacked in the past to say, okay, God, you brought us through this, you brought us through cancer, you brought us through the infertility, you brought us through whatever situation it may be. So we know that you're able to do it and that you have all power. So we're going to trust you on this new situation so that we know that in the future, we're going to stack this one as another testament to you. So, we kind of go through that. And, that's how we face some of the trials that we go through, was like, God, you've done it in the past. You've delivered us. You've helped us. You've given us the victory. So we're going to trust you on this one too, no matter what it is.
Man, that's so amazing, man.
What would you say is your spouse's greatest strength and that you admire about each other?
I would say for me, it's his ability to discern what others need. And it's not just my need. One thing I love to see Antwan do, like he can it's like he already puts things in place of what I need. He'll notice something before I even need it. He'll be like, providing that for me or giving that to me. And I'm like, wow. Like, I mean, it could be the simplest things. Maybe something need to be fixed, or I need something like fixed, like water. But then it could also be something a little bit more spiritual. But I feel like with him, I really truly appreciate his sensitivity and his discernment. Like I'm telling you, he can pick up on stuff so good. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing, you know? So he anticipates things before it happens. So I think that's definitely a gift.
Mhm.
For her, I would say, well, thank you, babe. Appreciate that. But no, I would say for her, it's just her. Mm, she is a wise woman. You know, I appreciate her wisdom, just the way that she can see situations. Like for me, sometimes I'll look at things and just see it at face value. But
Mhm.
she'll ask questions. She'll say, "Hey, what about this? Did you think about this angle? How about this?" And she really comes with a full story. We joke sometimes like how, you know, we'll be watching a movie or something and she'll come up with a backstory to one of the characters and "Ooh, that probably happened because of such and such and such." But she's such a thinker and like she provides insight to a lot of people. You know, she's central not just my life and my son's life, but in other people's life. She's a source of wisdom. People will come to her and ask her, you know, for her opinion, and they'll try to draw from her, and she gives them great knowledge. Now, what they do with it, that's on them.
Mhm.
But you know, she's just a source of wisdom, and I mean, I've grown from it. You know, she'll ask questions, and you know, sometimes she'll just ask questions and then drop the mic and just let me sit there and think about it. I'll be able to come back like, wow, you know, that was deep. So I love the way that she thinks and that the way that she loves. When she loves you, she has a deep love. And, you know, unless something happens to, you know, it's on you for her to stop loving you. You know what I mean? She loves hard. So,
That's great.
mhm, mhm.
So you talked about you know, one of the struggles, and this was pre-marriage, was, you know, navigating the boundaries with parents. What are some of the other struggles that you can testify to that you've overcome, but in the moment was really challenging in the marriage?
I'll say the health, but
Okay. So, what you want to go? So, health, I would say also, in the beginning, I would say kind of learning to live together.
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
So we got married in our late
Yeah.
20s. We both had our own place.
Yeah.
We both lived our own ways, you know, which wasn't too far off from each other.
No.
But one story that always cracks me up is like, you know, you grow up doing things differently. I grew up washing dishes and then you put it in the drying rack, just let it dry. She grew up washing dishes and then you dry them and then you put them in the cupboard or, you know, stuff like
Yeah.
that. But one funny story was like when we first got married, she was working nights as a nurse in the hospital and I was working the day shift. So, you know, sometimes, you know, depending on our shift, we would see each other for like less than an
Yeah.
hour in the afternoon. I'd be getting home, she'd be getting ready for work. Hey, kiss, love you, bye. And she'd be gone. Well, she grew up in a family where they put their leftovers in the oven and then would come back to them later. I grew up, you put it in the refrigerator. So I'm getting ready to cook something and I'm preheating the oven. And you know, the oven's warming up and I'm starting to smell something and it smelled like something burning. And then I open the oven and smoke. It's like a plastic bowl with some leftovers melted in the stove. And so I'm like, oh my God, this was left in the oven. So I call her, we talking like, hey babe, I was trying to do this and you left this in the oven. She's like, why didn't you check the oven? I'm like, why would I check the oven? Nothing should be in the oven. So
Yeah.
we had to say, she's like, well, I leave my leftover. Well, I don't, you know, so
Yeah.
we kind of had to learn.
Yes.
And so now, well, I mean, she doesn't do that too much anymore. But you know, that was something I had to learn and adapt. And it's something where, you know, you can get mad at because it's not the way that I do it, or something that you can adjust to say, okay, this is the way you do things. Let me you know, kind of adjust to make it. So that was kind of a hurdle, just coming together as two individuals, especially later in life, like I said, and then just kind of learning how to mesh our worlds together.
Yeah. That was funny though. Because I would never have thought, I'm like, who turns on the oven and don't look inside like that? But it was funny. But we got through it. We got
Do you think that those adjustments were pretty easy for you guys to like navigate through, or do you feel like it was like one of those I need to come to Jesus moments with, you know, with my spouse and myself? Because I know that, you know, for some it is a struggle, right? Like there's just things that we grew up doing that are normal to us, right? Don't really bother us. But when you're in your late 20s, right? These are things I've been doing for a long time. So now you're telling me that I need to adjust my ways. How was that, you know, just processing and then, you know, deciding whether or not I feel like compromising on this, or maybe you should compromise on this, you know, how did y'all work through that individually or together?
I think for both of us, I think we're pretty laid back people. So for me, it's not a lot of things that bother me. Like I'm really pretty flexible about a lot of things. Now the things I care about. So it really depends on what we're talking about. But if we're talking about oven, okay. We're talking about dishing, okay. You know, but like it could be. It just really depends on the situation. I don't know. Would you say you feel the same way, or would you
Yeah.
say you were a little bit more particular about some things?
I think it's sometimes I was more particular and she was more lenient. So, you know, it just worked out, but we would talk about it. You know, we would talk about, hey, I think it should be this way. I think it should be this way. And, you know, I think we both conceded on different things at times. And there was nothing that was too big that, you know, where if one person saw it so important that the other would still stand their ground, you know. But, you know, on the flip side, if there's something the other person felt like fighting for, they would do that. And I would say earlier on in our marriage, communication was difficult for me. Whereas like she would be able to just express her feelings, blah, 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 you know, lay it out and everything. And I wasn't able to process it that quickly. I was like, well, let me sit on it, mull over it, and then, you know, come back to you, you know, like that. But I think over time, I kind of use that as a stalling mechanism too, because, you know, maybe I didn't want to face what she was talking about at that time. I didn't want to take accountability for what she was talking about. So let me use that. And then, you know, she talked to me about that, like, hey, you say you're going to get back to me, but you know it's taking, you know, days or however long it's taking, you know. So you know, when she said it to me, I realized it wasn't fair to her.
No.
Because she's bringing me issues that are pressing upon her, and it's not that I'm spending all this time trying to dissect what's going on, but it's because maybe I'm offended and maybe I'm weaponizing the time in between a response instead of taking ownership of what's going on, standing up and kind of getting back to her. So that was a way that I think, you know,
that was challenging. That was a challenge.
Yeah.
That was a challenge because I am definitely a communicator. And I feel like, you know, we can work out anything. Let's just talk. Like, please talk. And a matter of fact, it makes me feel better to talk, right? Like I have to release it. Once I tell it to you, I'm not a nagger. That's the good thing too. Like I'm really not like, I'm not there. Because I don't want to talk about it forever. Me either. Like let's talk. Let me put it out there. Let's come to an agreement and then we can squash it and move on. And so that bothered me because I'm like he was saying, I'm like, when? Like, man, that means I have to hold all this stuff in. Like I'm just walking around like, oh, you know, that's heavy because I like to express. And so you're telling me not right now, zip it, you know, and I'm like, man, like when? Like it was forever. So yeah, so I think that was the most challenging, trying to figure out. So, you know, you had to be patient because I didn't want him to feel like, you know, say something, but at the same time, like, yeah, say something because we still like when, you know, we still need to talk about it. The problem has not been resolved yet. So, so I'm not going to sweep it under the rug either. So I'm not that type of person either. So it's like, if I don't like something, we're going to have to talk about it. So I'm just waiting. It could be a week or whatever now, but we're going to talk about it because it's still an issue. So let's just hurry up so we can move on and be happy with So I don't know, like I'm real basic, very just simple, you know,
far
simple
from
with
basic
that.
and far from simple. She's straightforward with that.
Very straightforward,
Yeah.
basic.
And it's
That's
good
right.
though.
Yeah.
You know, it helped my accountability come up. because I'm saying, hey, I'm the husband, blah, 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 all these things, but I'm not leading you to a place of comfort by not giving you rest in your mind by
Mhm.
talking about these situations. So no matter, even if it hurts me, well, it might have hurt her to come up with these things, like
Mhm.
going back to the cancer, how it hurt her to kind of tell me what was going on with her in the sickness at the time. Well, she spent time thinking about these things, maybe observed some things from me, and found a way to communicate it to me to try to soften the blow, even if maybe it's something that was, hurtful to me, or may have like been something that I hadn't realized. She took all this time to, it's kind of like preparing a meal, made it presentable and everything, then presented to me. And that's just like me saying, ugh, I don't want it right now, or I'll eat it later,
Yeah.
with that conversation. So, instead of saying, okay, let me dig into this now, we'll get through it and kind
Mhm.
of come out on the other side. So I feel like I've grown quite a bit in that over our marriage. And
Mhm.
that's what we talk to other younger couples about, is just keeping the lines of communication open and then
Yeah.
being honest with each other.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to segue into that, like you said, for other couples. So, what would be some advice that you, or one key advice you would give to married couples or soon to be married couples?
Mm. I would say talk, communicate, and try to get as much communication out as you can. Don't rush into marriage if you don't have to. Um, like we took 7 years, which is a longer time, but to me, I tell her now, like if I could do it over again, I would have married her sooner. But I also feel that we went through some things while we were engaged and dating, that if we had got married earlier and went through those same things, it could have possibly ended our marriage,
Mhm.
because they're kind of big things. But I would say definitely communicate. You have to communicate with your spouse. Be honest with them. Know that you're in this thing together. If I'm honest to you and telling you everything that's going on with me, then I'm trusting you that you're just going to give me good advice and that we're going to make it through together.
Yeah, I'll piggyback to what he said too. That was the first thing I thought about was be ready. Like you said, be ready for marriage. So I would say number one, before you get married, be honest and live in reality. Let's not make marriage be a fantasy. And whatever you see in that person, you're gonna see it when you get married. Like it's that, so you really should not be surprised. I will say this with him, I knew exactly what I was getting myself into, and everything I saw it in my marriage. So it wasn't like I didn't know. Like I can't say I didn't know. No, you knew. Come on. But you chose to, right? So you want to
Yep.
make sure that whatever you see, you can't build a man, you can't build a husband, you can't build a wife. So whatever you see, that will be okay. So that's number one. And then, like he said, number two is when you go in, you got to talk. You can never over communicate. Like let's talk, and also be that person's friend. Like nobody should be
Yes.
your husband friend.
Definitely.
Nobody should be your wife, though your best. Like you should be that person's best friend, your spouse's best friend. And I think that helps with anything, right? Because lovers, you can fall that kind of can fall off, but your best friend, that's your ride or die. Like that's consistent no matter what. So I would say that, just know what you're getting into.
What have you guys done, I guess, individually to help yourselves grow and mature? Because as I'm hearing you speak, like you're very mature in how you process information and how you deal with that information. And I know for some couples, they may not have had that time, to date and figure the things out, and they did rush in to marriage, but now they in it, right? and if they're gonna work this thing out, they're gonna stick it through, but there's gonna be some rough turmoil and some things that they're gonna have to work through personally for growth, and then things that they're gonna have to work through with their spouse. Is there anything that you would say that assisted you in helping you grow and mature as individuals that helped you in your marriage?
For me, I would say number one is God. And I know that sounds so corny, y'all. I know. But how it's like you don't even know yourself. Like God, I need God to show me who I am. Because I'm learning myself, right? I'm in my 40s, but I'm still feeling like, and you're forever evolving. So I'm really, really trusting God to help me, show me, because that's what marriage is going to do. I will tell you that I know that marriage shows you yourself. Like all this stuff, he's going to bring up everything that I could not see. I'm blind. I can't see myself. Your husband can, your spouse, your wife can. They'll be glad to tell you about yourself, right? And so we have to run to God. I have to run to him and say, Lord, help me, because my own knowledge, yeah, you think you're so smart. You're not. Okay. You're not smart. You don't have all the answers, because this world is so complicated. It can be complicated. And so I think that I really depend on him. And then I think too, the other thing is you surround yourself with like-minded people. You want to surround yourself with people like, yes, I'm pushing for you, Paige. We love the Holtons. Yes, we got you. You know what I mean? And talk with people who love and support you, and find wise women to talk to. You don't have all the answers, so like I've said, like I'm saying women because I'm a woman. So I would say, yeah, find some, a wise woman, not the gossipy ones, not the ones who always had it right. We need some real authentic relationships, people that don't mind sharing their faults, their weaknesses, where they tripped, and say, baby girl, let me tell you, you know what I mean? And really it's coming from a good place, not trying to divide us, not being jealous, because that's the other thing. Sometimes when you deal with the elderly too, they can become jealous of the younger woman, you know what I mean? And don't want to tell you stuff, or we're so religious in church, honey, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, yes, you do. You better tell me.
Right.
I need help. You're the old wise one, right? Like, help me. So I think too, just having those women don't mind, just, hey, come on over here. Let me tell you a little something,
Right.
I think it helps.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's good. Good. I would also say, like, being real with yourself. So I had to be real with myself. Take inventory, and then, don't let your emotions get in the way. Excuse me. Don't let your pride get in the way. Really, look at yourself. Like she said, your spouse is going to show you you. I've heard in the past that your spouse is a mirror of yourself. They see what's going on with you. So, hey, if you have something in your nose in real life, you don't just let it stick around there because, I don't care. And it's, my nose, I
That's
can
just
do what
me.
I want with my nose. That's just what I do.
That's what-
Your spouse is your mirror, and they should want the best version of you possible. So if they're telling you, hey, you got something sticking out, take inventory, look at yourself and say, hey, okay, is this something that I need to do, or how can I make myself better? Because it's all going for the furtherment of your relationship and your family. And then, like she was saying, having wise counsel. I had good friends and people that I leaned on and kind of talked to about different situations. Not the one that'll say, forget her, well, let's go out and let's go have some fun. No, it's one's like, man, you need to work on that. Or do you really think that she would say something that would hurt you intentionally? Or, have you thought about it from her perspective? So those people that really are in your corner for your success.
Two more questions for y'all.
Mhm.
I know, Paige, you said you grew up in church, right? What about you, Antwan? Was that your foundation?
Yep, grew up in church as well. Yes, so that was the thing that drew me to her. So going back to when I got her phone number, we were in college, and like she gave me her phone number, and I call her phone number. She's like, "Praise the Lord, this is Paige," blah 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 on her voicemail. And I'm like, she said, "Praise the Lord," because most of the girls I was dealing with at the time, they might or might not go to church.
Right.
May or may not be saved, but she started off with praise the Lord on her answering machine.
That's hilarious. But I told y'all I love me some Jesus. Like I love him so much.
Yeah. So I was like, "Ooh, she is the one."
I love that.
And it was hard to find, church women, and especially on a college campus. Everybody's trying to find themselves, or, even at that time, like, I grew up strictly. At that time, I grew up apostolic, so there's certain things, you don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't do that, but that's all around you. So then trying to find a woman that believed in your beliefs, then you kind of let the qualifications slip off a little bit. Well, maybe she can do a little bit of something, but you know, she cute. But you know, with her, I had the whole package. She was beautiful inside and out, and was saved and loved Jesus, so it made a big difference.
Amen. That's awesome.
I
That is
tell you,
a blessing.
God be working, man.
Yes,
Be
he
working.
Yes.
And then my last question for y'all is, you guys were successfully independent when you were single and dating, right? And now you need to be successfully married. And with that, because you were successful singles, you handled your finances the way you needed to handle your finances. How was it coming together and combining that and making that work? I know divorce one of the number one reasons for divorce is finances. And so we would love for you to share, you know, how you came together and handled that.
I'll say for me, it wasn't hard, but I will tell you that I did consider putting some money up for myself. So I was okay with us putting everything in the pile together. Because I thought that was right. Like I knew coming together, that's just what I believe. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like we should have a joint account and it comes together. But what I was a little bit on the fence about, well, should I have a secret, stash? Because from what I hear all around me, women is
Yeah.
saying, girl, you better keep you something because this man can get up and leave you at any time. And so I did contemplate that, but it also feels like a secret. It don't feel right. It's like, why is it a secret? You know what I mean? Like if it's just money, so I did struggle with that, but I didn't do it, just to let you know.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So glad I could trust you.
How to come across, but other than that, like I didn't, like I knew it should be coming together, right?
Yeah. And like I talked about the move to San Antonio, that was part of it too. Like I think in the first year of our marriage, we still had separate accounts. The first year of our marriage back home.
Yep.
And then we moved here, we had to find a place to bank that was local. So we're like, okay, we had talked about it before, and we then just kind of came together at that point. So like I said, this new beginning kind of created a beginning for that
Yeah.
too. And then like the finances create a sense of accountability.
Yeah.
Like you have to say,
Didn't
okay,
freeze.
do whatever I want to do. I have to be able to make sure that I'm truthful in my spending and what I do. And then, we even set up like a threshold, like, hey, up to this amount, we don't need to talk to each other about. That's,
Yeah.
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 slush fund. But anything over this amount, let's come together and see if we, agree with each other's purchases or, stuff like that. So, having an understanding and a conversation about that really helped us.
Yeah. Because you don't want to feel like a child, and because I'm
Right.
working, like you work,
Right.
So
Right.
you're like, can I, so like you're saying, we felt like that was good, like to set a number, and so you still can do whatever, but just don't go over without
Yeah.
talking about it.
That's so good because I feel like number one thing you said, it's so many. You hear it so much. Oh, you better, put your nest because you don't know what's gonna happen. And one thing that resonated with me, and I was kind of on your page, like I always believe that, one pot is, when you two come together, you better than y'all two separate. But one thing that resonated with me is when we did our premarital counseling was the pastor said, what, are you preparing for divorce? Right? Like, so you're going to have the secret account. What you saving for? Because you prepared for the divorce?
Already
right. You
preparing
setting
for
yourself up
Yeah.
to have that mindset, that you're already going to get to that point.
Or
that
you're already plotting to dip out.
Yeah.
If it get too hard, I'm out. I'm good. I got my money.
Right.
He can do whatever he need to do. That's, man. So many people talk about that.
Yes.
So, that's real. And I'm glad you mentioned that because just, it's a different generation and, people have a lot of thoughts about things, but we know what's worked, right? And what God put together, right? And what the covenant means, and together you're stronger. And so, for people, younger couples or even couples that have been in it for a little bit to know that it can work is, you know, is amazing. And to see it working in other people's lives, you know, it is amazing. And so, you know, it's great to be able to, you know, hear from other couples who are doing it and making this thing work, and knowing that, you know, yes, there's humps and bumps along on the way. We bumped our heads a few times, right? But it doesn't mean that you can't get back up, dust yourself off, and, you know, keep it moving. So y'all have been such a blessing.
Oh man.
And I thank y'all so much for joining the podcast and sharing your story. And I pray that, you know, whoever's listening, you know, really receives and gets something from it. Did y'all have any questions for us, or how did you feel telling your story of going back down memory lane?
I felt good. Like I said, it's so much. I gave you a very short, very short, you know, part of it, but God is good. You know,
Yes.
it's amazing. And we enjoyed talking with you all and seeing you all again.
Yeah. I think it's kind of amazing too of how, you know, we finally met. Like, you know, we have a mutual friend that connected us, and they were trying to connect us for a while before we finally met in person. And then once we spoke, we hit it off.
Yeah.
So I think it's just amazing how God will do things in His timing. And then, you know, years later, we're here together, and God's bless y'all with the podcast, and you have us on. So we're very proud of you all and look forward to your success with the podcast and all your other future endeavors.
Yes.
So we really appreciate y'all for having us on.
Oh, again, thank you. So again, thank you for watching This Works For Us podcast. Thank you again, Antwan and Page, for being on here. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. So until next time, we'll see you next time.
What's up, podcast family? We just want to say thank you for tuning in, watching our episodes. We pray that what we are saying is a blessing to you. God placed it on our hearts to share with other married folks and soon to be married folks. So again, we just pray that it's blessing you.
And stay tuned for the next video. Again, we want to thank you. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, thank you for supporting This Works For Us podcast.